Do you find that attitudes haven't changed over the past few years? I mean, I would have assumed that perhaps they have, and that what you're talking about, maybe, you know, the bullying and the harassment is a cross-gender issue.
Yes, it is.
Do the women, are they targeted more than the men in the workplace for those sorts of issues, for bullying and harassment?
Well, yes, they are, and I speak, you know, as the Secretary of the Australian Manufacturing Workers Union, and manufacturing in this country is exceedingly gender segmented. With the exception of clothing and food, the manufacturing industry is overwhelmingly male. My union has, at its base, membership in the metal industry and in the printing and vehicle industries. They are, whether we like it or not, predominantly and overwhelmingly male. And my union's makeup is representative of that. We're 94% male here in Queensland, mainly tradespeople like boilermakers and fitters and mechanics. But I was very heartened to respond specifically to your question that the other day my state council is our committee of management. It meets every quarter, and there's some pretty buffy blokes on that state council, as you can imagine. They're elected from the membership. And one of those state councillors, a delegate, when an issue about women, about unequal treatment of women was raised, because we'd in fact found that there was that the Industrial Relations Commission, or as it's now called, Fair Work Australia, was incapable of dealing with somebody. Ted, Boilermaker, convener of shop stewards up in Gladstone, so you can imagine he does it pretty tough. He said, "I can't believe that this sort of discrimination still exists in Australia. Women deserve a fair go regardless." So, I mean, the message has got out there. You know, big buffy blokes who work 12-hour days and have got the capacity to build, you know, cars, refineries, and what have you, who take pride in their trade and you know, see themselves as in no way diminished by having women in the union. Also see that it's important that women are able to operate in a situation, in a workplace which is harassment free and is also capable of realising the aspirations of those women workers. Because if we do violence to women in the workplace, it diminishes all of us, and they see that. And I think it's really important that the lessons of, you know, my union's been around since 1852, and we see that it is absolutely crucial that we, as a union movement, see that women's business is central to what we do. And unless we actually have a harassment and bullying-free zone where violence against women is not acceptable, that we diminish ourselves, and we're also, I must say, not as productive as we should be. You know, so it's a virtuous circle.
Yep. Michael, in your opinion, what causes the violence against women? Where does it stem from? Is it a power thing? What do you see it as?
Yeah, you know, I think it's a result of several things happening at once together. As the core of the analysis developed by women activists and scholars over the past 30 years has focused on the use of violence as a mechanism of power and control. So just like I might, you know, use a hammer to put something together, an individual guy will use violence. He may be someone who, you know, you see him on the street, you see him at your social work, or social group, or the golf course, and he's just a perfectly fine person. But he's selectively using violence in his relationship to maintain his power, just like in your example, where the man, you know, felt that he had the right to have someone cooking for him. But, you know, my response to that man is cook your own food if you don't. But, you know, he felt he had the right, and then he's using violence to maintain his power. So that's been the core of the analysis. The bizarre thing at the same time, and I think that's true, you know, it's also about the permission as a society that we allow the violence to continue. We don't have adequate laws. We don't implement the laws. We say that violence is a private or personal matter. It's a family matter. We just turn our eyes. We give that permission. But at the same time as those things, one of the strange things is that even though, you know, we could have a discussion here and talk about all the ways that our society is still a male-dominated society, where men still have more power than women, if you were to go out onto the streets of Brisbane and ask individual men about, you know, "Sir, tell me about all of your power," you know, blokes would look at you like you're crazy. They say, "I don't have power. You know, I don't make enough money. I don't, you know, I'm not, you know, strong enough. My kids boss me around. I mean, I don't have power." And we have to get at this very strange paradox of masculinity. And that is that we raise boys to be men with a set of impossible expectations. None of us can live up to them because we're supposed to be, always strong, always tough, always in control. No feelings, of course. I mean, I've never had feelings, but I understand that it's a possibility. We're not supposed to have feelings. We're supposed to be, on and on. And we can't live up to this. And so for some men walk around with this dialogue of self-doubt about living up to the expectations of manhood. And so how do they prove to themselves, how do they prove to women, to other men that they're real men? Well, their trump card is violence. So we have this strange combination of using violence to enact, as a mechanism to control someone, but also using it as a mechanism to try to deal with your own insecurities. It's a really deadly combination. So I think it comes out of the ways that we raise boys to be men, combined with the fact that we live in male-dominated societies. So whenever you have a society based on the power of one group over another, violence becomes a means for that group that has power to maintain their power over the other group.
Just take you back to something you said before. You said that, that we as a society allow the violence to happen. Do we really as a community allow it to happen? Or is it more that it's actually hidden, that women are afraid, for whatever reason, to come forward and to report it, thinking maybe that nothing would happen if they did? But is it really, is it a hidden, is it a secretive thing?
I think you're right. I mean, I think both those things are true. Particularly when we think of wife assault, there's to a certain degree it is hidden. It's in the home. Sexual assault tends to be hidden. But it's one of those sort of open secrets. I mean, neighbors hear things. Women come to work, with bruises and black eyes, and the story again about how clumsy she is. Women, go to speak to their priest or minister, and people know, people find out. I mean, here in Queensland, your police officers can go to the scene of a violent crime, that is, where a woman has been beaten up, and not arrest anyone. For me, that's giving permission. Because here your law says that the woman has to press charges. Well, this is pretty wild. She's standing there with a guy who's going to beat the crap out of her if she says anything, and she's got to say, "Oh yeah, I'm pressing charges against you." So that's what I mean by permission. So yes, it is hidden, but it's for too long it's been an open secret.
Panha, how do you feel about that? Is that something that's close to you?
Actually, I agree with my call again. We also discussed a lot. Some people say the main factor of violence against women is like alcohol use, poverty, lack of education. We agree, that's one factor. But the main factor that we could see is that power relationship, unequal power relationship actually that make men use violence. And in our society, especially like women are always considered as the subordinate position in the family as well as in the society. Men always be in the position of leadership or superior position. And women always considered as or are expected to be if you want to be a good woman, you should be soft, you should be polite, you should serve the husband, you should be tolerant to all kinds of situations in the family. And you should not bring the issue from the family to the outside. It can create more problems. Yeah. So this kind of mindset that bring the more, it's like encourage more violence against women to happen. Yeah.
So which should come first? Do we need the law to come first to say this is unacceptable, or are we as a society responsible for taking our children and saying this is unacceptable?
I think we need to consider both as the main important thing to do. One, to work in the whole society, to discuss and reflect what should be happening, how can we contribute to make us living together happiness, peaceful, and respect each other. And at the same time, law is also important. We should have law and policy to protect women from being abused. And when we have the law, we need also to make sure that the law really put into enforcement. Yeah. Because from our experience, we have law and policy to protect women. However, the implementation is still weak. We need to work a lot more to make the law really effective to protect women from violence against women. Yeah.
Michael, I see you nodding away there. You
No,
agree?
I just totally agree with
Yeah.
what
So it
Panha's
needs to be
saying.
attacked from all different levels, does it? Where do we start, though? Where do we start? There must be a starting point, is there?
You know, I don't think there's one starting point, because I think it depends the work we're doing. If I'm a policymaker, that's where I'm starting. I'm starting, you know, making sure we have laws. If I'm just over the last few days, I've been meeting with an amazing range of people, but we each have our starting point. If I'm a teacher, an educator, I'm going to be trying to work with parents and with the kids. You know, you do a lot of work in the community. You're working in the union movement, so you're working in the workplace. So, you know, I think the way there's one of the amazing things that's happening, and the reason why I think progress is being made in this, is that so many different people are grabbing onto to starting where they are at, and not just saying, oh, I'm going to, you know, vote for, you know, the person I like and let them do it, but saying, just like you were, Andrew, when you were talking about taking action within your union. It wasn't, you weren't waiting for a different law to be passed. You said this is our responsibility.
And in fact, the laws and the policies have always, as I said, we always had the policy saying that, you know, you'll not harass or bully or victimise or for that matter assault people in the workplace. But you know, all those laws have been around the English common law for, you know, centuries. But for instance, we're in the middle at the moment. We're taking an employer to the federal court at the moment, and this employer believes that it's okay to assault by poking, prodding, pushing, slapping workers. And the problem is not the law. It's clearly illegal or unlawful what is being perpetrated. It's a matter of enforcing it. But the most important thing that those workers have done, and some of them are women, is to actually say no. To say that they're not prepared to put up with that bullying and harassment and violence in the workplace. Now that employer has responded by sacking people and taking the sort of action that you'd expect from a disreputable person, whether they're an employer or not. But the issue is that there are still employers who believe that it is acceptable to perpetrate violence against workers, just the same as there are some workers who believe that it's okay to perpetrate violence against especially women. The policies are important, but the most important thing is for those people who are observing or who are victims to say no and to band together in after all, you know, the great principle of union solidarity with others to say this is unacceptable. And I think that part of White Ribbon Day and what it does is to not only legitimise that opposition to violence against women, but it also enables people to say, regardless of our political perspective or our position in society, that there's the capacity for all of us to say no, it is not acceptable. And I think that great refusal upon which, you know, a lot of social theories and social movements are based is something that White Ribbon Day and the policies and processes inherent in White Ribbon Day actually provide a great basis for that great refusal.